So continuous blood glucose monitors are excellent for people with type 1 diabetes. So type 1 diabetics have destruction of the beta cells within the pancreas, so they no longer produce their own insulin. So this is a brilliant tool to have because then they can measure their glucose continuously. So this way they can see if they need to administer insulin. So if their blood glucose goes too high, then they can administer insulin, they can inject it into themselves. And if it goes too low, then they can have something to eat to bring their glucose back up. So this is very, very beneficial for type 1 diabetics. However, it is not beneficial for everybody else. So there are certain things that you have to take into consideration when measuring blood glucose. So just a few of them are, think of the acronym TAM. So this is type, amount, and mix. So these things have to be taken into consideration when measuring blood glucose. So the type of food is going to determine how high your blood sugar spikes after eating this food. So if you were to eat a carrot compared to eating a scoop of ice cream, the carrot is more likely going to spike your blood glucose higher than the ice cream, because in the ice cream we have protein, we have some fats. This is going to slow absorption and this is going to minimize the spike in blood glucose. But we all should know that a carrot is probably healthier than some ice cream. But then if you look at the amount, so if you're to eat a lot of ice cream compared to the carrot, the more ice cream is going to spike your blood glucose higher than just the carrot. So the amount of food that you eat is also going to dictate the spike. And then the mix of food that you eat is also going to dictate the spike. So if you mix these two together, if you mix the carrot and the ice cream, bit grim, but this is also going to give you a completely different reading altogether. So the mix of food is also going to dictate how high your blood sugar spikes. So if we were to determine what foods are good or bad based on our blood sugar, we are going to determine that ice cream is better for us than a carrot, which we know is complete nonsense. Also, if we are dictating what is good for us based on our blood sugar, then exercising is also going to be seen as bad. So when you exercise through glycogenolysis, you break down glycogen and this turns into glucose and this puts it back in the bloodstream. So when you exercise, your glucose is going to go through the roof as well. So if you're determining what is good for you based on your blood sugar, you are going to determine that exercise is actually bad for you as well, which again is nonsense. It is also not inherently bad to have spikes in blood sugar. We have mechanisms in place to deal with this. It only becomes bad when we have chronically elevated blood sugar for a long period of time. But if you still think it's a good idea to wear a CGM, a continuous blood glucose monitor, let me show you these two papers. So the first paper looked at two different blood glucose monitors. So all participants wore two separate blood glucose monitors from two different companies. They all ate the same meal and they got discordant readings between the blood glucose monitors. So this just shows there is a variation in blood glucose results from different companies. And then this second study, so this was done very recently. So this is a metabolic ward study. So this is a very, very controlled study. So in this study, they fed all the participants. They knew exactly what they're eating. They even took pictures of what they were eating. So they had them eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They were in there for 2 weeks. They're all wearing continuous blood glucose monitors. So for the first week, all the same food. And on the second week, they fed them the same food on the same day at the same time, just a different week. And they had a completely different blood glucose measurement to the first week. It was so different that it looked like they were eating a completely different meal. So if they can't replicate blood glucose measurements in a metabolic ward study, this shows that there are so many things that go into determining what your blood glucose is going to do, that it is a horrible marker for determining what you should be eating. So this shows just because you can measure something doesn't mean that you should measure it. And unless you are type 1 diabetic, I would stay well away from CGMs.